Hey guys, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Clangin and Bangin with Mikey, episode 25. First off, man, happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Happy Father's Day to all the moms playing both roles. Happy Father's Day to the dudes who stepped up to the plate and who are taking care of kids who aren't biologically theirs, but you know, they're the man that the kids needed to have in their life, man. Father's Day is a really interesting dynamic for some people, man. And happy Father's Day to my pops, man. Wherever you at. Um, yeah, man. Yesterday, the switch gears was Juneteenth. Juneteenth is the day that slavery was emancipated, and it means abolished. And the last stronghold of slavery was Galveston, Texas. The reason why it was that in Galveston, Texas, because uh, there was no newspapers, there was no telephones, and so and these people who were enslaved didn't know that they were, you know, free blacks, for because nobody told them. Because there's the history of the South and the slavery is it's a lengthy one in that. Um, yeah, man. I think yesterday was Juneteenth, and for the first time in my life, I was making jokes about it. I was like, yeah. I said, white people, there's no mattress sale, there's no, and like y'all can barbecue, but we gotta come through because, and oversee this shit because this is our holiday, and yeah, I was making jokes about it, but um, deep down, man, like this is something that should have been recognized a long time ago. This is something that should have been recognized, you know, back in 1865. And I read somewhere that this is the first federal holiday first holiday that's made into a federal holiday in the last 30 so years. The last one to do that was MLK Day in I think 81 or 82, you know. So and yeah, man, Juneteenth for me, not just being African American, but just knowing the history that I know behind it and everything, man. It's like I can't fathom, what you know, my ancestors went through, whether it's the Middle Passage, whether it's, being enslaved, whether it's seeing, having babies and having the babies ripped out, families tore apart, having no way to trace your history, having no way to, genealogy wise, there's no way to trace your family history back to Africa because we were ripped from our homelands and told that that we weren't no longer people, we were property. And there's other things that play into the role too. I mean, it's like, yeah, everybody wants to say that, oh, America started the slave trade, this and this and that. That's not true. Um, First people to do the slave trade or practice the slave trade was the Egyptians, because what they would do, they would go to war with other tribes, and whatever tribes that they beat, they would enslave the people from the other tribes. It's either they enslave them or they're like, yo, we gonna kill you. And so there's that, and like the Chinese did it, the Japanese did it. Every race enslaved their own race, but in terms of slavery of one race to another, I want to say that the Spaniards were the first to do it because the Spaniards were the ones that started the slave trade for the Middle Passage and all the other stuff. And it's terms as America making it into a business because that's what they did. Yeah, there's that. I believe um I believe if you go to the ports and on the East Coast, there's a there's a section of it where it says I believe either in Washington D.C. or Baltimore or in Baltimore Harbor, where it has this little plaque where it says like this date in X amount of whatever year it was the first time an enslaved African hit the shores of America. Um, and that's a very um it's a real thing. That's a very thing that that's the thing that happened, and slavery is still happening, man. In different parts of the world, it's something that's it doesn't just go away, and but for Juneteenth for it to be finally federally officially recognized as an actual holiday, and for it to be celebrated, to the point where I remember growing up, you know, in Hawaii, and let's be real, there's not too many black folk here. So when we do run into brothers and sisters, we like our demeanor changes, man. It's like like we get more comfortable and everything, man. And but yeah, I think it's been a long time coming, as far as Juneteenth being recognized, and as far as people saying, "Well, how does this help black folk? This and that." Like, I hate that, bro. I legitimately hate that because them the type of motherfuckers that want all the handouts, everything done for them, this and this and that. Like, bro, do you realize that change happens gradually? It's like it took a civil rights it took a civil rights movement for us black folk, and not just black folk, but just minorities in general, to get basic equal human rights. Dog, and like before 1964, minorities, especially black folk, we couldn't sit at a lunch counter. We couldn't sit in a restaurant and get served, dog. You know what I mean? So it was like, and then on top of that too, I think it was 2014 or 2015 where they had like made legal, same sex marriage, dog. You know what I mean? It's like first they had like first it was they had to legalize interracial marriage, which I think was fucking stupid. It's like, bro, it's like there should not be a law in the books that said you can't marry somebody who looks different than you. That's just stupid. And then 50 some odd years later, you have the same thing. And the way I look at it, man, is like if people are happy, bro, like legitimately happy, and if who they with brings them peace, man, let them be. It's like I've never understood that with guys or people be like, oh well, I can, like I can't get down with that because it's like, nah, man, you can't get down with it because your way of thinking is warped. Um, but back to my point, man. It's a step in the right direction. I know we all may not have 40 acres and a mule, but for it to be finally recognized and for it to be, celebrated not just by black folk, but just by everybody. Um, yeah, man. It's like we gonna. It's a refreshing thought, man. Hopefully, maybe one of these days when I have kids, I can sit them down and be like, "Yo, this is what Pops did," like this is the shit like I went through. This is the shit that Grandpops went through. You know, this is the shit with that grandma, went through with us. You know what I mean? And cause I've been through some racism, man. It's like, you know, it doesn't matter where I lived at, whether it's here in Hawaii or back in Cali, but I've never, I could never fathom, that type of racism that my ancestors went through, or the type of shit that my parents saw growing up, or my elder relatives, man. Because it's like there's a lot of shit out there, man. It's like, yeah, it's changing and it's changing slowly, and I think a lot of people are just looking at it like, like we needed to happen faster. I'm like, nah. But in terms of racism and everything, man, dog, it's up to us to stop the cycle of racism, hatred, and all that stuff, man. It's like Um, and a and there's a bunch of moving parts to it too. You know, it's not something that you can just like, oh well, I'm gonna do this because because that or whatever it is. And it's like I'm a firm believer is that you can't change something unless unless you change yourself. Whether it's the way you think, whether it's the way you think, who you associate with, who you talk to, who you date, you know, who you decide to have kids with, all that stuff, man. It's like it's like all that stuff plays a role because it's like that's a reflection, you know, of you, and yeah, man. I just wanted to hop on here and give my 2 cents because Juneteenth, man, it's like it's about time it got recognized. I'm happy it got recognized, and anyway, y'all have a great Sunday. I hope y'all keeping a positive play and pushing in private. I'll catch you on the flip side, man. Goes.